just 1% of the vast potential of the Brahmaputra. Canals, edit. Megasthenes, a Greek ethnographer who visited India during the 3rd century BCE when Mauryans ruled India, described the existence of canals in the Gangetic plain. Kautilya, also known as Chanakya, an advisor to Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of Maurya Empire, included the destruction of dams and levees as a strategy during the war. Firoz Shah Tulak had many canals built, the longest of which, 240 kilometers, 150 mi, was built in 1356 on the Yamuna River. Now known as the Western Yamuna Canal, it has fallen into disrepair and been restored several times. The Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan built an irrigation canal on the Yamuna River in the early 17th century. It fell into disuse until 1830, when it was reopened as the Eastern Yamuna Canal, under British control. The reopened canal became a model for the Upper Ganges Canal and all following canal projects. The first British canal in India, which did not have Indian antecedents, was the Ganges Canal, built between 1842 and 1854. Contemplated first by Colonel John Russell Colvin in 1836, it did not at first elicit much enthusiasm from its eventual architect Sir Proby Thomas Courtly, who balked at the idea of cutting a canal through extensive low-lying land to reach the drier upland destination. However, after the Agra famine of 1837-38, during which the East India Company's administration spent Rs 2,300,000 on famine relief, the idea of a canal became more attractive to the company's budget-conscious court of directors. In 1839, the Governor-General of India, Lord Auckland, with the court's assent, granted funds to Courtly for a full survey of the swath of land that underlay and fringed the projected course of the canal. The Court of Directors, moreover, considerably enlarged the scope of the projected canal, which, in consequence of the severity and geographical extent of the famine, they now deemed to be the entire Doab region. The enthusiasm, however, proved to be short-lived. Auckland's successor as Governor-General, Lord Ellenborough, appeared less receptive to large-scale public works, and for the duration of his tenure, withheld major funds for the project. Only in 1844, when a new Governor-General, Lord Hardinge, was appointed, did official enthusiasm and funds return to the Ganges Canal project. Although the intervening impasse had seemingly affected Courtly's health and required him to return to Britain in 1845 for recuperation, his European sojourn gave him an opportunity to study contemporary hydraulic works in the United Kingdom and Italy. By the time of his return to India, even more supportive men were at the helm, both in the northwestern provinces, with James Thomason as Lieutenant Governor, and in British India with Lord Dalhousie as Governor-General. Canal construction, under Courtly's supervision, now went into full swing. A 560 kilometers, 350 mi, long canal, with another 480 kilometers, 300 mi, of branch lines, eventually stretched between the headworks in Haridwar, splitting into two branches below Aligarh, and its two confluences with the Yamuna, Jumna in map, main stem in Etawah, and the Ganges in Kanpur, Kaunpur in map. The Ganges Canal, which required a total capital outlay of £2.15 million, was officially opened in 1854 by Lord Dalhousie. According to historian Ian Stone, it was the largest canal ever attempted in the world, 5 times greater in its length than all the main irrigation lines of Lombardy and Egypt put together, and longer by a third than even the largest USA navigation canal, the Pennsylvania Canal. Dams and barrages, edit. A major barrage at Farakar was opened on the 21st of April, 1975, It is located close to the point where the main flow of the river enters Bangladesh, and the tributary Hooghly, also known as Bajirathi, continues in West Bengal past Kolkata. This barrage, which feeds the Hooghly branch of the river by a 42 kilometers, 26 mi, long feeder canal, and its water flow management has been a long-lingering source of dispute with Bangladesh. Indo-Bangladesh Ganges Water Treaty signed in December 1996 addressed some of the water-sharing issues between India and Bangladesh. There is Lavkush Barrage across the river Ganges in Kanpur. Turi Dam was constructed on Bajirathi River, a tributary of the Ganges. It is located 1.5 km downstream of Ganesh Prag, the place where Telangana meets Bajirathi. Bajirathi is called the Ganges after Dev Prag. Construction of the dam in an earthquake-prone area was controversial. Banziga Dam was built on the Sone River, a tributary of the Ganges for both irrigation and hydroelectric power generation. Ganges floodwaters along with Brahmaputra waters can be supplied to most of its right side basin area along with central and south India by constructing a coastal reservoir to store water on the Bay of Bengal Sea area. Economy, edit. The Ganges basin with its fertile soil is instrumental to the agricultural economies of India and Bangladesh. The Ganges and its tributaries provide a perennial source of irrigation to a large area. Chief crops cultivated in the area include rice, sugarcane, lentils, oilseeds, potatoes, and wheat. Along the banks of the river, the presence of swamps and lakes provides a rich growing area for crops such as legumes, chilies, mustard, sesame, sugarcane, and jute. There are also many fishing opportunities along the river, though it remains highly polluted. Also, the major industrial towns of Unnao and Kanpur, situated on the banks of the river with the predominance of tanning industries, add to the pollution. Tourism, edit. Tourism is another related activity. 3 towns holy to Hinduism, Haridwar, Prayagraj, and Varanasi, attract millions of pilgrims to its waters to take a dip in the Ganges, which is believed to cleanse oneself of sins and help attain salvation. The rapids of the Ganges are also popular for river rafting in the town of Rishikesh, attracting adventure seekers in the summer months. Several cities such as Kanpur, Kolkata and Patna have also developed riverfront walkways along the banks to attract tourists. Ecology and environment, edit. Human development, mostly agriculture, has replaced nearly all of the original natural vegetation of the Ganges basin. More than 95% of the upper Gangetic plain has been degraded or converted to agriculture or urban areas. Only one large block of relatively intact habitat remains, running along the Himalayan foothills and including Rahaji National Park, Jim Corbett National Park, and Dudhwa National Park. As recently as the 16th and 17th centuries, the upper Gangetic plain harbored impressive populations of wild Asian elephants, Elephas maximus, Bengal tigers, Panthera T. tigris, Indian rhinoceros, Rhinoceros unicornis, Gors, Bos gorus, Barasinghas, Rusavus divorcii, sloth bears, Melursus ursinus, and Indian lions, Panthera leo. In the 21st century there are few large wild animals, mostly deer, wild boars, wildcats, and small numbers of Indian wolves, golden jackals, and red and Bengal foxes. Bengal tigers survive only in the Sundarbans area of the Ganges Delta. The Sundarbans freshwater swamp ecoregion, however, is nearly extinct. The Sundarbans mangroves, Heritiiformes, also grow in the Sundarbans area of the Ganges Delta. Threatened mammals in the upper Gangetic plain include the tiger, elephant, sloth bear, and four-horned antelope, Tetracerus quadricornis. Many types of birds are found throughout the basin, such as myna, psittacular parakeets, crows, kites, partridges, and fowls. Ducks and snipes migrate across the Himalayas during the winter, attracted in large numbers to wetland areas. There are no endemic birds in the upper Gangetic Plain. The great Indian bustard, Ardiotis nigriceps, and Lesser florican, Siphiotid's indicus, are considered globally threatened. The natural forest of the upper Gangetic Plain has been so thoroughly eliminated it is difficult to assign a natural vegetation type with certainty. There are a few small patches of forest left, and they suggest that much of the upper plains may have supported a tropical moist deciduous forest with Sal, Shoya robusta, as a climax species. A similar situation is found in the lower Gangetic Plain, which includes the lower Brahmaputra River. The lower plains contain more open forests, which tend to be dominated by Bombyx sabre in association with Albizia procera, Chewabunga grandiflora, and Sterculia vilosa. There are early seral forest communities that would eventually become dominated by the climax species Sal, Shoya robusta, if forest succession was allowed to proceed. In most places forests fail to reach climax conditions due to human causes. The forests of the lower Gangetic Plain, despite thousands of years of human settlement, remained largely intact until the early 20th century. Today only about 3% of the ecoregion is under natural forest and only one large block, south of Varanasi, remains. There are over 40 protected areas in the ecoregion, but over half of these are less than 100 square kilometers, 39 square mi. The fauna of the lower Gangetic Plain is similar to the upper plains, with the addition of a number of other species such as the smooth-coated otter, Lutrogale perspicillata, and the large Indian civet, Vivera zibetha. Fish, edit. It has been estimated that about 350 fish species live in the entire Ganges drainage, including several endemics. In a major 2007-2009 study of fish in the Ganges basin, including the river itself and its tributaries, but excluding the Brahmaputra and Mena basins, a total of 143 fish species were recorded, including 10 non-native introduced species. The most diverse orders are cypriniforms, barbs and allies, siluriforms, catfish, and perciforms. Perciform fish, each comprising about 50%, 23% and 14% of the total fish species in the drainage. There are distinct differences between the different sections of the river basin, but Cyprinidae is the most diverse throughout. In the upper section, roughly equaling the basin parts in Uttarakhand, more than 50 species have been recorded and Cyprinidae alone accounts for almost 80% those, followed by Balatoridae, about 15.6%, and Caesaridae, about 12.2%. Sections of the Ganges basin at altitudes above 2,403,000 m, 7,909,800 foot, above sea level are generally without fish. Typical genera approaching this altitude are Schizothorax, Tor, Barilius, Nemachilus and Glyptothorax. About 100 species have been recorded from the middle section of the basin, roughly equaling the sections in Uttar Pradesh and parts of Bihar, and more than 55% of these are in family Cyprinidae, followed by Scylbidae, about 10.6%, and Clupidae, about 8.6%. The lower section, roughly equaling the basin in parts of Bihar and West Bengal, includes major floodplains and is home to almost 100 species. About 46% of these are in the family Cyprinidae, followed by Scylbidae, about 11.4%, and Bagridae, about 9%. The Ganges basin supports major fisheries, but these have declined in recent decades. In the Prayagraj region in the middle section of the basin, catches of carp fell from 424.91 metric tons in 1961-1968 to 38.58 metric tons in 2001-2006, and catches of catfish fell from 201.35 metric tons in 1961-1968 to 40.56 metric tons in 2001-2006. In the Patna region in the lower section of the basin, catches of carp fell from 383.2 metric tons to 118, and catfish from 373.8 metric tons to 194.48. Some of the fish commonly caught in fisheries include catla, golden masia, torputitera, tormasia, tortor, rohu, labio rahita, walking catfish, Clarias batrachus, pangas catfish, Pangasius, goonch catfish, bagels, snakeheads, shana, bronze featherback, Notopterus, and milkfish, shanos. The Ganges Basin is home to about 30 fish species that are listed as threatened, with the primary issues being overfishing, sometimes illegal, pollution, water abstraction, siltation and invasive species. Among the threatened species is the critically endangered Ganges shark, Glyphis gangeticus. Several fish species migrate between different sections of the river, but these movements may be prevented by the building of dams. Crocodilians and turtles, edit. The main sections of the Ganges River are home to the gharial, Gavialis gangeticus, and mugger crocodile, Crocodilus palustris, and the Ganges Delta is home to the saltwater crocodile, C. porosius. Among the numerous aquatic and semi-aquatic turtles in the Ganges Basin are the northern river terrapin, Batagur basca, only in the lowermost section of the basin, three-striped roofed turtle, B. tongoka, red-crowned roofed turtle, B. kashuga, black pond turtle, Geoclemis hamiltonii, Brahmani river turtle, Hardala thurgii, Indian black turtle, Melanoclus trijaga, Indian eyed turtle, Morinia petersi, brown roofed turtle, Panchura smithii, Indian roofed turtle, Panchura tecta, Indian tent turtle, Panchura tentoria, Indian flap-shell turtle, Lysimys punctata, Indian narrow-headed soft-shell turtle, Chaitra indica, Indian soft-shell turtle, Nilsonia gangetica. Indian peacock soft-shell turtle, Enhurum, and Cantor's giant soft-shell turtle, Peloclus cantratu, only in the lowermost section of Ganges Basin. Most of these are seriously threatened. Ganges River dolphin, edit. The river's most famed faunal member is the freshwater Ganges River dolphin, Platanista gangetica, which has been declared India's national aquatic animal. This dolphin used to exist in large schools near urban centers in both the Ganges and Brahmaputra rivers, but is now seriously threatened by pollution and dam construction. Their numbers have now dwindled to a quarter of their numbers of 15 years before, and they have become extinct in the Ganges' main tributaries. A recent survey by the World Wildlife Fund found only 3,000 left in the water catchment of both river systems. The Ganges River dolphin is one of only 5 true freshwater dolphins in the world. The other 4 are the Beiji, Lepotes vexillifer, of the Yangtze River in China, now likely extinct, the Indus River dolphin of the Indus River in Pakistan, the Amazon River dolphin of the Amazon River in South America, and the Araguayan River dolphin, not considered a separate species until 2014, of the Araguaia Tocantins Basin in Brazil. There are several marine dolphins whose ranges include some freshwater habitats, but these 5 are the only dolphins who live only in freshwater rivers and lakes. Effects of climate change, edit. The Tibetan Plateau contains the world's 3rd largest store of ice. Chindae, the former head of the China Meteorological Administration, said that the recent fast pace of melting and warmer temperatures will be good for agriculture and tourism in the short term, but issued a strong warning. Temperatures are rising 4 times faster than elsewhere in China, and the Tibetan glaciers are retreating at a higher speed than in any other part of the world. In the short term, this will cause lakes to expand and bring floods and mudflows. In the long run, the glaciers are vital lifelines for Asian rivers, including the Indus and the Ganges. Once they vanish, water supplies in those regions will be in peril. In 2007, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, in its 4th report, stated that the Himalayan glaciers which feed the river were at risk of melting by 2035. The IPCC has now withdrawn that prediction, as the original source admitted that it was speculative and the cited source was not a peer-reviewed finding. In its statement, the IPCC stands by its general findings relating to the Himalayan glaciers being at risk from global warming, with consequent risks to water flow into the Gangetic Basin. Many studies have suggested that climate change will affect the water resources in the Ganges River Basin, including increased summer, monsoon, flow, and peak runoff could result in an increased risk of flooding. Pollution and environmental concerns, edit. Main article, Pollution of the Ganges. The Ganges suffers from extreme pollution levels, caused by the 400 million people who live close to the river. Sewage from many cities along the river's course, industrial waste and religious offerings wrapped in non-degradable plastics add large amounts of pollutants to the river as it flows through densely populated areas. The problem is exacerbated by the fact that many poorer people rely on the river on a daily basis for bathing, washing, and cooking. The World Bank estimates that the health costs of water pollution in India equal 3% of India's GDP. It has also been suggested that 80% of all illnesses in India and 1/3 of deaths can be attributed to waterborne diseases. Varanasi, a city of 1 million people that many pilgrims visit to take a holy dip in the Ganges, releases around 200 million liters of untreated human sewage into the river each day, leading to large concentrations of fecal coliform bacteria. According to official standards, water safe for bathing should not contain more than 500 fecal coliforms per 100 milliliters. Yet upstream of Varanasi's Ghats the river water already contains 120 times as much, 60,000 fecal coliform bacteria per 100 milliliters. After the cremation of the deceased at Varanasi's Ghats, the bones and ashes are immersed into the Ganges. However, in the past thousands of uncremated bodies were thrown into the Ganges during cholera epidemics, spreading the disease. Even today, holy men, pregnant women, people with leprosy or chicken pox, people who have been bitten by snakes, people who have committed suicide, the poor, and children under 5 are not cremated at the Ghats but are left to float free, to decompose in the waters. In addition, those who cannot afford the large amount of wood needed to incinerate the entire body, leave behind many half-burned body parts. After passing through Varanasi, and receiving 32 streams of raw sewage from the city, the concentration of fecal coliforms in the river's waters rises from 60,000 to 1.5 million, with observed peak values of 100 million per 100 milliliters. Drinking and bathing in its waters therefore carries a high risk of infection. Between 1985 and 2000, Rs 10 billion, around $226 million, or less than 4 cents per person per year, were spent on the Ganga Action Plan, an environmental initiative that was the largest single attempt to clean up a polluted river anywhere in the world. The Ganga Action Plan has been described variously as a failure and a major failure. According to one study, The Ganga Action Plan, which was taken on priority and with much enthusiasm, was delayed for 2 years. The expenditure was almost doubled. But the result was not very appreciable. Much expenditure was done on political propaganda. The concerning governments and the related agencies were not very prompt to make it a success. The public of the areas was not taken into consideration. The release of urban and industrial wastes in the river was not controlled fully. The flowing of dirty water through drains and sewers were not adequately diverted. The continuing customs of burning dead bodies, throwing carcasses, washing of dirty clothes by washermen, and immersion of idols and cattle wallowing were not checked. Very little provision of public latrines was made, and the open defecation of lakhs of people continued along the riverside. All these made the action plan a failure. The failure of the Ganga Action Plan has also been variously attributed to environmental planning without proper understanding of the human-environment interactions, Indian traditions and beliefs, corruption and a lack of technical knowledge and lack of support from religious authorities. In December 2009, the World Bank agreed to loan India $1 billion over the next 5 years to help save the river. According to 2010 Planning Commission estimates, an investment of almost Rs 70 billion, approximately $1.5 billion, is needed to clean up the river. In November 2008, the Ganges, alone among India's rivers, was declared a national river, facilitating the formation of a national Ganga River Basin Authority that would have greater powers to plan, implement and monitor measures aimed at protecting the river. In July 2014, the Government of India announced an integrated Ganges development project titled Namami Gange Program and allocated 2,037 crore for this purpose. The main objectives of the Namami Gange project is to improve the water quality by the abatement of pollution and rejuvenation of River Ganga by creating infrastructures like sewage treatment plants, river surface cleaning, biodiversity conservation, afforestation, and public awareness. In March 2017, the High Court of Uttarakhand declared the Ganges River a legal person, in a move that, according to one newspaper, could help in efforts to clean the pollution-choked rivers. As of the 6th of April 2017, the ruling has been commented on in Indian newspapers to be hard to enforce, that experts do not anticipate immediate benefits, that the ruling is hardly game-changing, that experts believe any follow-up action is unlikely, and that the judgment is deficient to the extent it acted without hearing others, in states outside Uttarakhand, who have stakes in the matter. The incidence of waterborne and enteric diseases, such as gastrointestinal disease, cholera, dysentery, hepatitis A and typhoid, among people who use the river's waters for bathing, washing dishes and brushing teeth is high, at an estimated 66% per year. Recent studies by Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, say that the river is so full of killer pollutants that those living along its banks in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Bengal are more prone to cancer than anywhere else in the country. Conducted by the National Cancer Registry Program under the ICMR, the study throws up shocking findings indicating that the river is thick with heavy metals and lethal chemicals that cause cancer. According to Deputy Director General of NCRP Anand Kumar, the incidence of cancer was highest in the country in areas drained by the Ganges, and stated that the problem would be studied deeply and with the findings presented in a report to the Health Ministry. Apart from that, many NGOs have come forward to rejuvenate the river Ganges. Vikrant Tongad, an environmental specialist from Safe Green, filed a petition against Simeoli Sugar Mill, Harper Up, to NGT. NGT slapped a fine of Rs 5 crores to sugar mill and a fine of Rs 25 lakhs to Gopalji Dairy for discharging untreated effluents into the Simeoli drain. Water shortages, edit. Along with ever-increasing pollution, water shortages are getting noticeably worse. Some sections of the river are already completely dry. Around Varanasi, the river once had an average depth of 60 meters, 200 feet, but in some places, it is now only 10 meters, 33 feet. To cope with its chronic water shortages, India employs electric groundwater pumps, diesel-powered tankers, and coal-fed power plants. If the country increases